I'm Tim Monroe, and this is what I really want to talk about. There's something fascinating about every single one of us. Everybody has a passion and a story to tell, something that lights them up. Every week I sit down with interesting people and we talk about the things that really matter to them and to all of us. It might be funny, it might be weighty, it might be weird. It's what I really want to talk about. I'm talking today with Bruce Fraley. Bruce is the 5th mayor of the city of Berea, Kentucky. He began his first term as mayor on January 1st, 2019, and was reelected to a second 4-year term in 2022. Prior to serving as mayor, he served on the Berea City Council from January 2017 through December 2018. In addition, Bruce also serves as the first vice president for the Kentucky League of Cities and is a director on the executive board of the Bluegrass Area Development District. Bruce is a Berea native, a graduate of Berea Community High School, and an honors graduate of Eastern Kentucky University with a dual major in political science and sociology. He chose a public service career with the Social Security Administration while in college and worked for that agency for 34 years, with his last 27 years as district manager. He retired from federal service in September 2017 and sees his service to the city of Berea as a continuation of a successful career in public service. Bruce and his wife Linda have two adult children and 3 grandchildren. Welcome, Bruce. What do you really want to talk about today?
Thanks, Tim. I really want to talk about the Central Kentucky Business Park Authority, but I will say that it's nice to be here with you on your podcast.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm really glad you said yes to this because you're a very important part of this community, and I haven't really interviewed sort of a public servant elected official on my podcast. I think this is the 22nd or 23rd episode I've done, so I'm really glad that you're here. So, as I always do, Bruce, let's sort of start at the beginning, and so people can get to know you a little bit. So you grew up here in Berea, you went to Eastern Kentucky. So can you remember a time or sort of the moment in your life when you thought, really this sort of route of public service is where I want to go?
I can't really pin it to one thing, Tim, but the one thing that I remember is my grandfather was always involved with city government. My grandfather on my mother's side was the chairman of the Industrial Development Board. So I can remember him having conversations with the mayor at the time, Mayor Hensley, and others, and trying to shape Berea's future by attracting business and industry to Berea. So I think that some of those experiences and seeing him and knowing what he accomplished when I was young, I think rubbed off on me is what I say. That's what we say in Appalachia, right? That you rubbed off on me, and he did. So I think some of those experiences from youth probably led me down the path to public service. But I think oftentimes public service is truly a calling. It sounds cliche, but I would tell new employees all the time that if you're cut out for public service, you'll know it. And if you're not cut out for public service, you'll probably be gone within a year or two. And that's the way it normally played out. So it was not an intentional route to my career to what I'm doing now, but I think just my background growing up here in Berea in a community that cared then and still cares, a community where people looked after each other and cared for each other. I think that those all shaped part of what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And so you worked for the Social Security Administration for a very long time. So what were your responsibilities there?
Well, as a district manager, you're responsible for the office. You're responsible for the performance. But my last 14 years was district manager in the Richmond field office, which is where I started as a cooperative education student in 1983. It's hard just to pin down one. What did you do?
Sure, you had lots of jobs there, probably.
Yeah, because I worked in our headquarters in Woodlawn, Maryland, which is just outside of Baltimore for a time, and also in our regional office down in Atlanta on 19th and Spring and Marietta, right down by the CNN Center. So all those different jobs had different functions and different duties, but just to focus on the last 14 years, I ran the Richmond office, which services 5 counties. And we were responsible for anything from Social Security cards, getting somebody a new card, to somebody who was retiring, to someone who had become disabled that was needing to file a claim. And we would process those claims locally from start to finish, where with most federal agencies, they're centralized.
Yeah.
In our case, we were decentralized. We called it community-based service.
Interesting.
And that's what really kept me going.
Yeah.
And I got very involved with our management association to try to keep that community service local presence to make that sustainable over time. And it still is. We still have about 1,200 offices around the country, and 25 in Kentucky now. There were 27 when I was
That's good
working.
to know that the Social Security Administration operates in that local way. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's decentralized, so it's
Yeah.
more personal. And
Right.
one of the arguments that I always made when I was lobbying for continuation of community-based service is that when people face certain trying times in their life, retirement, for instance, everybody thinks that's a happy time, but it's a transition, and oftentimes people were forced out or they had to retire.
Right.
It can be a very difficult time and a scary time for individuals. When somebody becomes disabled, most of the time that's not expected,
Yeah.
and you don't see it coming, and then you're faced with, I can't work, and I've got to have a way to support myself and my family. And then survivors was another type of benefit. If a young worker dies and has minor children, we would take claims where the children would receive benefits from that worker's record. So you were dealing with people in their time of need and time of uncertainty. So having a face to see right across the desk from you and a warm hand to shake was very important.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the reasons that I think we really wanted to continue to make sure we had the community-based service, local service, and one of the reasons that it's still here today.
Right. And so as you sort of went along, and maybe when you were younger, did you have influences, models, role models that you looked up to? You mentioned your grandfather, but maybe public figures that you sort of looked up to and said, I really admire that person or that man or woman who might have been in public service or politics.
Yes, my grandfather's one. I mentioned him, but Mayor Hensley was a close friend, and he would be at my grandfather's house from time to time when I was there. And I always liked Mayor Hensley and always had a great deal of respect for him. We do an award that's in his memory called the Red Tie Award because he always wore a red silk tie that was handmade at Churchill Weavers. Since we don't have Churchill Weavers anymore, you may not even know that we asked Aaron Beal with Student Craft if he would hand make those red ties for us for future awards. And,
that's great.
And Aaron and the students have done that for us to kind of keep that local handmade red tie tradition alive. But I looked up to
Aaron was my second podcast interview.
Yeah, I really like Aaron, and he's been more than eager to help out with community projects and working together with the college and the city. Another person that I can't overlook is my mother. My mother and my dad both. My dad wasn't in public service per se, but he was a small business person, and he always tried to help new business people, take people under his wing, help them to make it, because he felt like if we could build a strong small business economy, that it helped his business. He was in the furniture business.
Okay.
My mother was a very giving person. She had grown up in my grandfather's household, so it rubbed off on her too. But she would take Berea College students, for instance, and young people who came to First Christian Church, and was always lending a helping hand. I found out later in life that several of people that were graduates of Berea College would talk about meeting my mother at church, and that on Sundays, after I was long gone and out of the house in a professional career, that my mother would invite them to come to her home and have a Sunday meal. Or if they didn't have clothes for the new semester, she would go and help them with some shopping and make sure that they had some nice professional clothing to wear.
That's amazing.
So she was giving, but it's one of those things that I didn't really even know it, and most people didn't. She did it under the radar. So I think that's in my bloodline. As they say, that giving back and caring about other people and putting people before yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool, Bruce, that your influences, your models are all people like people in your household or people that lived in town, and that's how you developed your sense of wanting to give back to this place that you're from. So before we get into the topic at hand today, I just want to ask a couple other questions. So a lot of people today, the sort of political climate, I guess, can be very divisive in our country right now. But you seem like somebody who sort of stands aside from that, even though you are an elected official. But have you felt any challenges or any pressures as you've been mayor from the sort of partisan politics that we're experiencing today?
Yeah, I've certainly felt the pressures, Tim, and people tend to have a tendency to try to make everything, not everybody, but many people, it's a we versus them, or a right versus left, or a liberal versus conservative. Mm-hmm. But in our city government is intentionally set up as nonpartisan, which is one of the reasons that I was willing to run for office. I really don't think that I could be in a partisan elected office, because what my experience has been with seeing others and knowing what I know is that it's very difficult to be independent.
Right.
And typically you're following a party line. My party line is the people.
Right.
And the way I look at it is I represent all the people.
Right.
The people who voted for me, the people who didn't, the people that love me, and the people who don't love me so much. Because everybody's important and everybody sees the world differently. And I think we have to have more tolerance and more respect for people who don't necessarily see the world the same way we do. And but I have very intentionally tried to keep partisan politics out of City Hall and out of our council chambers.
Yeah.
I think our council members, to their credit, have done that as well. We have a very diverse group of people with very different backgrounds, very different beliefs on our city council, but they work well together. Yeah. This current council, I think, is fantastic, and they put their differences aside for the greater good, which is what I try to do, and I think that that's kind of led to a more of a team environment within City Hall with our legislative body and me as the mayor, that we all have a respect for each other's views and opinions, and I think we look at that the same as for our citizens, that we know that people aren't going to agree on everything, but most of the things we can agree on. And the bottom line is there's not one person on our city council or in City Hall that doesn't want to build a better Berea for the future and for the people who are here currently. So regardless of their views, their intentions and their heart is in the right place.
Right. I think that's an advantage that maybe mayors or maybe even governors have over members of a legislative body, because you actually have to do stuff. Like, you have to run the city. You have to make sure, the streets are clean and everything's working and everything's running, and you have to manage things and not just debate issues, right? So you're focused on the work itself and the community itself. And I think that allows for a more nonpartisan perspective, maybe.
I would agree. Yeah. And there's an old saying that all politics are local, and that's the reason that some of those pressures do come to us to take a position on different issues. But we try to stick to the issues that we can control, the local issues, and the making sure the streets are blacktopped, and making sure we have great fire protection, make sure we have great police protection, making sure that we have safe buildings and nice parks for our kids. Mm-hmm. So those are all the common issues that aren't political at all. And I think if we stay focused on those, that we're going to do right by the people and do what we were elected to do.
Well, I think most people that I know recognize that in our city government, that it's not a political, it's not partisan. There's nobody arguing for one viewpoint or another. It's just running the city, which I think people very much appreciate. So let's leap into what you really want to talk about today,
Sure.
and that is the Central Kentucky Business Park Authority. So what is it, Bruce, and why does it matter?
Well, Tim, when you asked me think about what you really want to talk about, I thought of a dozen things right off the bat. This is something that's very different than anything that's ever been done in Berea or in the Bluegrass region of Central Kentucky. The Central Kentucky Business Park Authority is a partnership between multiple governmental entities. And that's important to me because it's difficult enough to get everybody on board with one governmental entity, much less bringing four together to achieve a common goal or to pursue a common objective. In this case, we have the City of Berea, the Madison County Fiscal Court, the Scott County Fiscal Court, and Lexington Fayette Urban County Government in a partnership. The idea is regionalism. So when we talk about regionalism and economic development, the best example of that they have been doing regionalism for over 2 decades, is the Research Triangle in North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. there are at least 10 municipal entities, counties, or cities that work together and form what's essentially a real estate partnership to cooperate to attract business and industry into their area, and they've been very successful at it. More recently, some of the areas that we've seen that have had successful regional collaborations would include Greater Nashville. They're doing really well, and also Greater Columbus. They're probably their economy is hot.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, Utah. There are others, but as far as regionally around us, I would say Research Triangle, Greater Nashville, and Columbus are probably the most successful areas where we're seeing regionalism and economic development. And that's important because the employers who want to locate in our area or another area, they don't care about city limit lines. They don't care about county lines. They want to go somewhere where they can get a trained workforce that's going to stick with them, and where people get along and collaborate. And by showing that collaboration, I think is one of the reasons that the Raleigh-Durham example has been so successful. We haven't had anything on this scale in the Bluegrass region, and it started with a discussion with Judge Taylor and myself on how could we collaborate for the greater good and not compete against each other. And we ended up adding the Scott County Fiscal Court. Of course, they have a very successful economy in Scott County with the Toyota manufacturing that's been there for nearly 30 years now, and their economy has continued to grow. So they had bought into the idea of regionalism along with us, and they were looking for a project. So fitting in with us seemed to be perfect. And then when you look at the geography, the missing piece in the middle along I-75 is Fayette County and Lexington.
Yeah.
So we went and presented to Mayor Gordon and her executive team, and they asked some really hard questions, which they should have. But in the end, within the course of 24 hours, they let us know that they were interested. Now, I tell everybody all the time, Tim, that if it was easy, everybody would be doing this. So It's not easy. Again, it's hard enough to bring your own elected officials and citizens together in one governmental entity or one city or one county, much less to do that for four. But as we move forward to develop the business park, what was amazing to me is that when the four partners legislative bodies voted to enter what's called an interlocal agreement to form this business park authority, all of Lexington's council members voted yes. All the magistrates on the Madison County Fiscal Court voted yes. All the magistrates in Scott County Fiscal Court voted yes. And here in Berea, all 8 of our council members voted yes.
Wow.
So it was unanimous that we wanted to move forward on this.
And so,
I'm very
Bruce,
excited.
the goal of this project is to attract businesses to this cooperative region?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And many times when people talk about an industrial authority or a business park, they think about manufacturing. But we're looking for even more than that. We're looking for research and development, corporate headquarters. We really want to reach out to multiple types of business entities to develop our regional economy. I think in Berea in particular, we've done very well with developing our local economy. And I think it's important that we partner with our neighbors to build a broader regional economy and to share some of the things that we've been doing successfully with others, with hopes that others can have success. The ironic part of this is that the first site for this regional partnership will be in the city of Berea.
Okay. Where will that be?
It will be in what's called the Mentalist Industrial Park. And the easiest way to know where the Mentalist Industrial Park is, if you know where Ferristown Middle School is, you go out to the end of Ferristown Industrial Drive, and there's a cul-de-sac at the end.
Okay.
The property to the east of that, going over towards Silver Creek and US 25, there's a little over 300 acres there.
Okay.
There's going to be some site development that we'll need to do, but in the end, we think that we'll have around 180 acres and up to 4 parcels that will be well suited for industry, for example, Heister Yale sits on about 50 acres. So when you're looking at 22 to 48 acres, you could fit a couple of Heister Yale size industries in that park. But we also think it's going to be very attractive to suppliers of existing industry like Heister Yale and Ostimo Americas, which is the former Hitachi. They now go by Ostimo. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so how do you go about attracting these? How do you get the word out to these companies that you're sort of, creating this attractive, place for them to bring their business?
Right. There's many ways that you do that. We do have a consultant that helps us to promote what we're doing. We don't have lots that are ready for sale yet. That's probably going to be a year or two down the road. We do have lots available for sale within the city of Berea. But for the regional project, it's probably going to take us about a year to get lots ready in the city of Berea. Again, it'll be a real estate partnership, essentially, between those four partners, those four governmental entities. But the thing that I'm really excited about is those jobs will be located in the city of Berea. And we think very conservatively that there will be at least 700 jobs created over time. And you're probably talking a 10-year build out on an industrial, no, I shouldn't call it industrial, a business park that size. And we very carefully avoided the word industrial and in place of an inserted business because we do want to have that broader array of potential clients that would come here to open their facilities and expand and create jobs right here in Berea. So I'm really excited about that part. And then there is a parcel in northern Madison County as well that the industrial park, or I should say the business park authority, has an option to purchase. And it's 722 acres. So we have another area that's off of exit 95, very close to Fayette County, very closer to Scott County, very close to Berea, where we can grow into that over time.
And these parcels of land, are they currently privately owned or are they city land? How does that work?
Right. The Menless Industrial Park is owned by the Berea Industrial Development Authority. So the Industrial Authority will make the balance of that property available to the Regional Business Park Authority. The parcel, the 722-acre parcel in northern Madison County is privately owned right now. It's actually a working farm. And but the Madison County Fiscal Court originally took an option to purchase that pending due diligence work to make sure the property is suitable and there's no karst or old tanks of any kind or environmental issues that would prevent you from developing that. All that due diligence work's been done and it came back clean, very suitable for development for the future. And again, the Madison County Fiscal Court voted to make that available to the Regional Business Park Authority. And the Regional Business Park Authority voted that they would take over that option, which gives us 2 locations in Madison County to start our partnership.
Yeah, and you mentioned how these 4 different entities, which are essentially 4 sort of counties or cities that are involved, all voted unanimously to support this project. So I'm imagining that took some leadership, some diplomacy, some skill. So what were the challenges of sort of selling this? And were you the sort of, leader of this battle, or was there somebody else?
Well, it did take a lot of work and some leadership, and I'll always give the credit to my peers. When you have people like Judge Taylor and Judge Covington and certainly Mayor Gordon, it's nice to have people
Mayor
like
Gordon,
that.
Mayor of Lexington.
Mayor of Lexington, correct. It's nice to have
the
them
big
on
city
your
near
team.
us.
That's right. And but I do take pride in being an equal partner in that through the way, and visioning some of this and how it could work out and how we could have a first location and being able to strategize. But I think there's not, I think my peers would say that there's not one clear leader out of our group, that we all work together very well. And as the quarterbacks will tell you, it's always a team effort. You got to have the whole team to get over the finish line.
Although I would think that Berea, being a relatively small city, right, is in some ways punching above its weight here in terms of ambition. I mean, so how many people live in Berea? I've heard different numbers, but
we're a little over 16,000 right now.
So that's a small town.
Correct.
Is it even considered a city? I don't know how do they define those things. But
we're a home rule city.
Okay.
Yes.
So a relatively small city, and I think, or you can tell me, is it common for a city of Berea's size to be such a player in this kind of development scheme?
I would say no, it's not common.
Yeah,
But you have to dream big.
yeah,
I was taught that as an early age. You have to dream big and aim for the moon and the stars, and that's what we were doing. Regionalism isn't something that just popped into my mind. This is something that people have been doing in other locations. There's an organization that's called Commerce Lexington. When I was on city council, I heard from them, and they were talking about regionalism back then. This is 8 or 9 years ago. And so I was a little bit of a slow learner. It took me a little while to come along. I'm like, how's this really going to work? And we need to make sure that we're protecting our people and public funds that are in Berea. And then you start seeing that this is just like an investment. It's just like investing into a CD or investing into some type of a savings instrument with city funds. And there's been very little investment in this so far. In fact, we think we're applying for grants through the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And it's called the Kentucky Product Development Initiative. And the product we're developing are build-ready sites for business and industry, right? So our regional site, I think, has been looked on very favorably. That application is still pending, but we're very optimistic that we will have significant funding to be able to get the Berea project started. And then once we start being able to sell lots and parcels and start turning dirt, we'll be able to roll that forward. And I really think the future's bright for Berea and for this business park authority in particular, because we're going to be the first in the Bluegrass region to do this. And I want to say too, Tim, where I don't forget it, my main goal, and I think the goal of our partners, the 4 governmental entities, is to start turning dirt, attract employers, and create jobs. Let's start generating, providing jobs for our people, generating the revenue that comes from that. But there's a secondary objective that I have, and I think my partners share. That is that we are hopeful that we can export what we're doing to others. Because I'm a Berean first. I'm a Madison County, but I'm a Kentuckian too, through and through. So I want to see people that live in Western Kentucky, where my son lives. I want to see them be successful. I want people from Eastern Kentucky, which is where I have some family. I want to see them to be able to do projects like this where we can chart the course for regionalism, make sure that we document what we've done right, what we did wrong, and what we would do differently. And try to export that to others where they can be successful too.
I think that's really smart. I think Berea College is starting to develop that similar mindset where we have this model, Berea College has this model, right, which is free tuition, et cetera. But it hasn't necessarily been sort of pushed out as a thing to replicate and duplicate to other colleges. And I think your plans to sort of make this a model and hope other people can follow along and be successful is really smart. So as you look out on the horizon of this project and you sort of think maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if all goes well, sort of what will things look like, and what will the project have accomplished, and sort of where do you go from there?
Wow, it's really fun to vision what the project will look like, and it's really hard to say because it depends on the type of business and industry that come in. But my vision for the Berea Park, I'll kind of focus more on that, and then I think this will carry over into the northern Madison County site that's larger too. But I don't envision this being a mega site where you're going to have one big user that comes in to use that acreage. I think you're going to have multiple entities, and I would envision 4 to 8 medium-sized industry that would come in to occupy the space that's the Central Kentucky Business Park Authority land at the end of Fairstown Industrial Drive.
So that just in Berea, those
it's
4
just
to 8.
Berea.
Okay.
Yeah, I would envision 4 to 8 there. There are, the kind of the back of the napkin cut and fill plan on how do we develop this. We've got that with our engineering company, and we're looking at 4 parcels from 22 to 48 acres. So some of those could be split up. If somebody only needs 20, you might be able to take that 40 and make it a 28 and a 20. So that's where I'm seeing 4 at a minimum businesses, and maybe up to 8. I think beyond 8 we'd be pushing it. All of our projections right now through MWM Consulting would be that this type of activity would generate a minimum of 700 jobs, but it could be as much as 1,100, 1,200. For instance,
and that's when you think about the population of Berea writ large. That's a lot of jobs.
it's huge.
Yeah,
It's huge,
yeah.
and Berea already has an excellent manufacturing base, and we owe that to the folks who came before us. You know,
Yeah.
going back to Mayor Hensley and my grandfather, and up through Dr. Kirby and people like Ronald Pennington that helped build the local economy. And we're just carrying on in their tradition, and we're looking toward the future. But Berea right now is a regional employment hub.
Yeah.
I'll give you, for instance, Heister Yale in Berea that manufactures forklift. They're a worldwide company. They have around 1,000 employees right now. At one time, they had employees from 24 different Kentucky counties that commuted into Berea to work at Heister Yale.
Yeah.
And that's not to mention the Ostimo Americas and some of the other industries that we have in town. But that speaks to the Appalachian culture where people want to be home.
Yeah.
They value home and where they're from. So most of those counties where people are commuting into Berea from are south and east of us. And people would come here and stay and work maybe a four 10-hour days,
Right.
stay in Berea 3 days, and then they're home for 4 days.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon.
Yeah.
We also see that with our partner in Scott County with Toyota Motor Manufacturing. I think they have employees from almost every Kentucky county
you'd
that
think
come
so.
to work there.
How many people work in that plant?
Tim, I'm not real sure, but I'm wanting to say it's 12 to 15,000.
Wow.
It's significant. I'll have to get that number, but it's they've continued to grow, and again, they started building Camrys there and Toyota Camrys in either '88 or '89, I believe, and
Right.
they've been growing ever since, and they're going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
But then again, with that as an example, I do want to step back just a minute and I talk about Ostimo Americas that was previously known as Hitachi. Hitachi rebranded and renamed themselves, but before that it was Tokiko. There was Tokiko produced automotive parts, and there's another industry right next to it called KIUSA that produced automotive parts. Both were from Japan, and both originally came here to support the Toyota plant
Japanese plant
in Scott County.
Toyota plant. Yeah.
And that happened in counties around us as well.
Yeah.
So by Scott County winning that project, it didn't just help Scott County, it helped the entire region,
Yeah.
which makes an even stronger case for thinking regionally
Right.
in our strategy for business and economic development.
Yeah.
Putting those county lines and those city limit lines aside, those are barriers.
Right.
We want to put the barriers aside and work for the greater good.
Yeah. So as you think about, you said maybe 4 to 8 businesses that you hope will move into these sites in Berea. Are you envisioning that these jobs will be require skilled labor, educated labor force? What kind of jobs do you envision these being?
Well, it can be anything from general labor to engineering.
Yeah.
One of the advantages, there are actually 2 advantages that we have in Madison County that help Berea, but they also help Richmond, Madison County, and all of central Kentucky. One of those is the completion of the chemical demill project at the Bluegrass Army Depot.
Yeah.
At their peak, they had about 1,400 to 1,500 contract employees
Yeah.
working on the Army Depot
Yeah.
to destroy those munitions, chemical weapons that had been housed there.
So quickly, people who are listening who don't know this,
Yes.
that there's a U.S. Army depot right outside of Berea, sort of between Berea and Richmond, and it for a long time housed chemical weapons
Correct.
that then were deaccessioned. They were assigned to be destroyed, and that project took a while, but it's just winding up now, or is it completely
they
finished
finished
now?
their mission in July of
Okay.
2024,
Okay,
but there's still some drawdown to go.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that's been going on for 30 years.
A long time, yeah.
The destruction of those chemical weapons that went back to World War II. And those weapons are all destroyed now.
Yeah.
What was kept on the Bluegrass Army Depot.
Yeah.
So when you look at the employees that were working on an Army base,
Right.
they're able to pass a drug test. They show
Yeah.
up for work. They check all the boxes. And many of those employees have been here for 10, 15,
time.
20 years.
Yeah.
They've made their life here. They've raised their kids here. They're the Sunday school teachers, and
Yeah.
they're the Boy Scout leaders. So those folks want to stay in the local area if they can. And right now we're seeing some of those folks transitioning into the local economy. But by doing what we're doing, it'll allow more of those folks to stay here if they choose to do so. That's one big advantage that we have in our area. The second one is the creation of the Ignite Academies, Ignite North in Richmond and Ignite South in Berea. That's part of the Madison County Public School System, as you know. Early in my tenure, the first year, I worked with the superintendent at the time, David Gillum, to do a needs assessment of the local industry in Berea and Richmond and what was needed. And those vocational and technical training centers that are called Ignite North and South have a broad range of what we would say non-traditional technical school. You know, traditionally it was your trades,
Yeah.
but they have healthcare, they have marketing, they have engineering, they have electrical, they have industrial maintenance, and kids can come right out of the industrial maintenance and make a good living right out of high
sure.
school if they want to do that. So the Ignite Academies are training the workers of the future right now, and have been doing that successfully for the last couple of years since the facilities opened up. And I think that really speaks well for our future. The kids that want to stay here will have the skills
Yeah.
to get a job, and they'll have the types of jobs in our local economy that they can make a good living and live the American dream. That's the goal, is to make sure that the education system, which we are partnering with and supporting, produce the workers of the future who are ready to go to work right out of high school if they choose to do that, or if they want to get a higher education degree, they can do that and still transition in.
Yeah.
Or they can mix it. They can go to work and go to school later, come back into the industry that they started in. We want to do that, but we also want the schools to be supportive of us, and we want to be supportive of them. So one of the things that I found about by being mayor is that all these things work together.
Yeah.
You know, so often if we don't see the inner details of how these things work, it seems like each is an individual effort. But all of these different activities are tied together and they're interrelated, and that's been one of the really interesting things about being mayor, is to see how everything works
Sure.
together for
Yeah.
the greater good.
Absolutely. And speaking about you being mayor, so are there, this is a big project that you're focused on, and I'm sure there's other projects too that you're focused on all the
Yes.
time, but is there any other sort of, big ambitious project, maybe similar to this one, that you are hoping to, get done in your tenure?
Wow, yes, Tim. This is just one. I came in feeling like we had maybe missed some opportunities over the years, and I wanted to make economic development and building an economy for the future one of my main goals. But if you look at some of the things that are going on around town right now, we've been working through the Corps of Engineers, and now it's the Department of Agriculture. So you have to work through for dam safety. This goes back to Berea College's ownership of the waterworks at
Right.
Owsley Fork
Yeah.
to raise that dam up. And the Owsley Fork Dam is considered a high hazard dam. And it's not high hazard because it's in danger of failing. It's high hazard because development was allowed downstream from that dam over the years since it
Okay.
was, I think Berea College built it in the 70s, mid to late 70s when I was young.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is we're working with the federal entities to get approval to strengthen the dam with federal funds, but also to raise the dam while we're doing that. We're going to raise the dam around 7 feet, and
Wow.
that will take the capacity of that the Owsley Fork Reservoir, which is only one of several reservoirs where we get our water for the city. It will increase the capacity from 700 million gallons to 1 billion gallons,
Okay.
which we feel like will take care of Berea's growth, residential, business, anything going on for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
50 to 75 years certainly, and probably beyond that. So that's one project that we have to get that done. It's important to the future of our city, and we're on the cusp of being ready to bid that out for construction. But it goes back to Berea College's ownership, and I think some of the earliest projects or communications that I've seen with Berea College and the federal government goes back to 1988.
Wow. Okay.
As how long this is needed to be done.
Yeah.
So this has been one of the things that we've tried to keep pushing,
Yeah.
keep pushing, and keep pushing. But as you know, the wheels of federal government can turn slowly. And
So are you needing to go to Washington and talk to people there
we
about
have
this project? Yeah.
we have, and we've been very lucky to have our elected representatives that represent us in Washington
Yeah.
be very supportive of us
Okay,
in
good.
this. So we have
Because I'm
done
assuming
that.
that's a pretty expensive project.
It's a very expensive
Yeah.
project, and there will be federal funds that will
Yeah.
pay for most of it.
Yeah.
The city will have to pay for some. The idea is that anything to strengthen that dam, to reinforce it, to make sure that there's no failure in the future, is federal.
Right.
And as far as raising the dam up and making it better for our future water needs, would be part of the city.
Yeah,
So again,
yeah.
it's we're in a good position to pay for it. I think the city just finished up paying off the bonding for the purchase of the waterworks not long ago. So we're in a really good position now to keep our costs low for our customers, including Berea College and our business and our residents, but also having the funding available to be able to increase the capacity in that primary reservoir,
Right.
which is Owsley Fork.
Yeah.
So we look forward to getting that started and completed, and I hope to do that in my tenure.
Yeah.
There are other projects. One is, a couple of them are transportation projects where we've been working with the state. Of course, the biggest one that happened was 2 years ago when the phase 2 of the Berea bypass opened, and that could be a whole nother segment
Right.
or a whole nother podcast. You know, it took a lot of work to get that done and to bring our friends and our contacts in state government to get that funded again. The funding had been taken away from that, and we got it restored. And now we have a bypass that goes all the way around Berea from 21 to exit 77 on I-75.
Right.
But there are two more projects in particular. One is extension of Mady Road, which is in our business park, to Highway 1983, which is Mentalist Road in the Fairstown community.
Yeah.
There's about 87 acres in there that belongs to the city industrial authority, and it's not part of the regional project that we're developing on a
Right.
parallel track.
Yeah.
So that's very important, and that project should be let this spring.
Okay.
So that's something that I've been working on literally for 5.5 years.
Right.
It is finally going to come to fruition. Another one that we have had support from our state government on is the extension of Kenway Street. Kenway is part of the Roselawn subdivision. So you have Roselawn and Dixie Park that really has only one way in and one way out, and many homes, many
Yeah.
citizens live there. It's needed a second way in and out since I was a boy, literally since the 70s. And this will extend Kenway out, and we would bring it out onto US 25 very near the bypass is where we think we can bring it out, and working with the transportation cabinet, the state transportation cabinet, to make it safe.
Right.
And we are in the process of that right now with acquisition of right-of-way and with the design with our engineering company. So we're looking forward to getting that done. These projects never happen fast enough for me.
Yeah.
But the main thing to do is to keep it moving forward, and we're doing that. And I'm thinking that hopefully will be done by the end of my
That's
tenure.
great. So you got a lot going on.
We do.
And here you are. Are you in your second term?
I'm in my second term now.
Are there term limits to mayors in Berea?
No, they're not
No.
for Berea.
Okay.
And I'm in the seventh year, so I'm in the third year of a second term. And I did recently announce that I was going to run for reelection,
Okay.
and hoping the citizens see fit to reelect me, and would love to continue to serve. But part of the reasons I want to continue is we have these projects going on, 3 of them that we've been talking about. And I think it's important to get those projects over the finish line.
Yeah.
And we're right at the cusp of getting them started, and I'd like to see them completed.
Is
So,
there? Do you know if there's anybody who's going to step up and run against you?
not that I know of at this
Yeah,
time, but
yeah.
Of course, there's a long time between now
Sure,
and June,
there is, yeah.
and I would expect that there will be.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there should be. I mean, I
should
feel
be.
like, you should have to
Competition's a
make your
healthy
case,
thing.
and
That's right.
absolutely.
And but if the citizens choose, I'll be happy to continue to serve, and that's, again, I think within that time frame, within the next 5 years, getting the Owsley Fork project finished, Kenway project finished, and certainly the Mady Road extension are all very doable. The other one I'll mention too, Tim, that's really important, and it's more than just Berea, is the airport modernization project. The Madison County Airport is actually in the county, but it's closest to Berea.
Yeah.
And very close out Peggy's Flats Road. And we are going through a process right now of running a larger diameter water line there where a terminal can be built at that airport. It's a 2-inch line, which is not much different than you would run to a home or a small business here in Berea that's trying to serve that whole airport. And we did get federal funding through the Appalachian Regional Commission to do that. And the other thing that we're doing with that airport modernization is running a force main sewer line, which is basically has to be pumped back into the Berea system.
Right.
Believe it or not, that airport and the aviation program from EKU is serviced by a septic system.
Oh, wow.
All these years later.
My gosh.
But we almost have that project finished up, and that's been a long time coming. That's been 4 or 5 years to get the funding, to get that bid out and to get the work done. But most of the work is already completed on that. Once that happens, it will allow the airport to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And again, I know we're at Berea College, but also our friends at EKU have the aviation program, which is one of the few aviation programs around. And that has grown from around 100, and I think as of last count, they were a little over 400 students in the aviation program. And that's important because the folks that come out of that program, they have people competing for them for jobs.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about, you know, working at it themselves to go figure out which company they want to work for. They're going to have multiple offers coming out from commercial and non-commercial airlines that need pilots. And so we want to see that project continuing to grow because that helps students in our area, Berea and Madison County, that are in that program, but it also helps people in the Appalachian region and throughout Kentucky that come here to go into EKU's aviation program. And we look forward to seeing that continue to grow with EKU as an equal partner with Madison County, City of Richmond, City of Berea. So we have 4 people in that partnership, four entities.
So you've got so much going on, Bruce, and we try to wrap this up a little bit. I wonder if you could talk just sort of briefly about, and I thought you're the perfect person to ask this question. You've lived in Berea your whole life, and you've been so active here and such a leader. So, you know, we've only been here for less than 3 years, but we've fallen in love with the place. So tell people, tell me, what is it about Berea that makes it such a special place?
Wow, that's hard to put your finger on, Tim, but there's a culture and something that you really can't define in Berea. The special about the people that live here, the businesses that are here, that look after each other, take care of each other, and care about one another. And I think a lot of that goes back to the history of the college, where the college was instrumental, was the first college in the South to educate African Americans, the first college in the South to educate females. There was the foundation school that educated young men and women from the Appalachian region when they would have had to go work in the mines after the 6th grade. And they could come here and actually get a high school diploma and have a better life. So I think all of that and the community as a whole that was part of that culture, that Berea culture, is what makes it special. And it's probably the history and the culture that goes along with it. And again, where people care about each other, they care for each other, and try to help each other. It's a special place, and I'm glad I'm here.
We're glad you're here too. So thank you so much for this, Bruce. It's been a great conversation. And you know, one of the times I talked to you, this was maybe about a year ago, I remember saying to you, I said to you, Bruce, I don't know if you're a Republican or a Democrat, and I mean that as a very high compliment. And so I still feel that way, and I hope that you can sort of maintain that. You know, keep those partisan pressures away and help Berea stay like the special place that it is.
Absolutely. That's one of my goals, Tim. And again, I'm really honored to be on the podcast with you. You had told me about it, and when you invited me, I was really excited to come. And I think I even invited myself for the second one. So,
no, I'm really glad you're here. And thank you so much, Bruce. It's been a great conversation.
You're welcome, Tim. Thank you.
Appreciate it. What I Really Want to Talk About is produced and recorded in the studios of Berea College News and Radio in Berea, Kentucky. You can learn more about this podcast and listen to all of the previous episodes at whatireallywantotalkabout.com. My contact information is on the website, so please get in touch with me if there is something that you really want to talk about. I'm Tim Monroe. Thanks for listening.